Thank you very much for the amazing introduction. I love the energy. Yes, day 3, but day 3 can be day 1. If we just change our minds a little bit around that. There's a lot to talk about, and it's a sensitive subject in many ways because it's close to our hearts and how we look at this part of the world and look at hospitality more broadly. I want to bring up the panelists to the stage and introduce you to them. They're going to really give this discussion the color and the perspective that you are yearning for. So please welcome to the stage Hassan Ahdab. He's the Chief Hospitality Operations Officer at Taiba Investments. Samy Boukhaled, VP Hotels Elaf Group. Sultan Alshehri, Chief of Investment at the Aseer Development Authority. And Amir Lababedi, Managing Director of Development MENA at Hilton. Thank you. So we're going to talk about Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, the beacon of opportunity, and how this country is going to align itself with its Vision 2030. Saudi Arabia is set to become a global tourism powerhouse, and coincidentally, in the last 2 weeks, guess who picked that up? S&P, right? They looked at it, they're like, hey, the Saudis are doing a lot on tourism. It's actually enough for us to go back to our projections and boost the Saudi economic outlook to positive. This is a direct quote. The sheer scale and size of projects estimated at $1 trillion suggests large funding requirements across the government and government-related entities. The government is undergoing a recalibration exercise to prioritize projects based on economic returns and reassess timelines to avoid overheating and funding pressures. And this goes to the core of what we're going to talk about, because yes, the outlook is exciting, but the Saudi government has indicated on every possible front that it's no longer going to be an open tap of capital and cash and liquidity. And questions are going to be asked at every step of the way. And when I speak to all of you, and over the last couple of days, that sentiment is shared. So I want to start off to get an understanding of where we are with the projects that many of the developers have committed to. But I want to start off with Sultan Alshehri, with you, to get your insight in terms of, the pipeline and if there's been any slowdown so far.
Thank you, Yousef. I'm very glad to be here with you today, all. When it comes to the mega projects that are happening in Saudi, I think Saudi Arabia is expecting mega events coming up in the next few years, starting from the Asian Games to the World Cup 2034. So when it comes specifically to Aseer region, where I represent, Aseer region has announced a strategy back in 2021. Where we aim to be a global year-round destination built on two of our main assets, nature and culture. And since then, the momentum started. Aseer has announced last year 2 mega projects through the Public Investment Fund. One of them is Suda Peaks, which is going to be a luxurious mountain resort on the highest peak in Saudi Arabia. Which will add to the market 2,700 keys, starting from 2027 till 2032. And I think the momentum is great. The company is working hard to achieve its targets. The second mega project was announced again in 2023. The Al Wadi, which is one of the Ardara company's mega projects in the downtown of Abha. It's a mega mixed-use project, adding 1,700 keys to the market. And the third one is the Aseer Investment Company, which is an investment house owned by the Public Investment Fund and dedicated to create investment opportunities in the market in Aseer, in partnership with the private sector. Okay. So when it comes to Aseer region, it's the second region in Saudi Arabia in terms of number of mega projects driven by the PIF. Yeah. And we see the momentum is great and we are on the right track.
Okay, so full steam ahead from Aseer. I want to get to the private side, to Hilton. Amir, every time I look at sort of the latest news from Hilton, there's an update on the number of hotels being built, the number of hotels being handed over. I can't keep up. That's how real time it is. Where are we today as of this morning?
Yeah, you're right. And look, I think Saudi Arabia has been an amazing growth story for us. I think in the last couple of years we've seen significant growth in the number of not only deals that we've signed, but also projects that are actively under construction. So as at today, we've got just over 90 hotels trading in pipeline. We were delighted yesterday to sign and extend our partnership with Taiba Investments with the signing of the Waldorf Astoria in Medina, amazing prime location in the holy city. So fantastic growth, and as I said, our construction pipeline, we're leading that. I think if you look at percentage of actual projects that are under construction, we're almost double, in fact, if not more than double, the number of hotels that are actually coming out of the ground. So that's important, obviously, for the industry, for Saudi as a country to have that accommodation capacity. And I think the great thing is that we're doing that with to a large extent, and probably leading that with the private sector in Saudi. So the public sector is definitely important, but we're supporting that vision of a thriving economy driven by private sector investment with great private sector partners as well. So an amazing growth story. I think if we continue doing what we're doing, we'll be at 100 hotels, if not by the end of this year, hopefully early next. So there'll be some more news for you to report, Yousef. And I think the projects that are being delivered are going to really change the dynamics of a lot of the cities in Saudi Arabia. If you look at the transformative nature of actually what's happening and this kind of desire for a vibrant society, the projects that we're working on, such as the avenues in Riyadh, which is a major, if not the largest, mixed-use leisure, entertainment, recreation development under construction at the moment in Saudi, where we've got a Waldorf Astoria, a Conrad and a Canopy all under construction. If you've seen that site, you'll see the number of cranes in there. It reminds you of Dubai in like 2004, 2005. In the Aseer province, in Abha, I think we're the leading operator. That's a market that's been around for a long time in terms of domestic travel. Yeah. It hasn't had the quality of accommodation that it needs, and we're obviously really happy to be the leading operator there in terms of the pipeline for that region. The Point is an amazing project where we're working with our colleagues at Sedco as well, delivering a world-class, again, leisure, entertainment, mixed-use project with a Hilton Residences and a Canopy, a lifestyle hotel there as well. So great progress.
Okay.
In the
Hassan, from the Taiba point of view, has there been an acceleration, or are you just kind of steady as she goes, or are you cutting back a little bit? I mean, if there was a spectrum to describe how aggressively you're going about your commitments, how would you describe that?
I think I would start by saying that Taiba is the birth of two major companies, one Dur Hospitality and Taiba bought Dur Hospitality at the beginning of this year. Actually, the merger between the two companies gave strong strength, doubling up the portfolio, becoming like 39 hotels, more than, I would say, 7,000 keys, and 8 projects really, as we speak, are ongoing. One of them will open before the end of this year, and second one early next year. And I believe that we'll be opening every 6 months a brand new hotel. So the strength is really strong. I think the value of Taiba today, it is a mix of both from brands. So we have our homegrown brands, Makarim and Noor and Al-Aqiq, and also we benefit from the boost of our major partnership with people like the Hilton, Marriott, IHG, and Accor. Both of them, I think, it's helping us to bring, I would say, a new breed and keeping up to date with the growth. Our projects are ongoing, and we'll be working on our expansion strategy in the next 3 months, so to see the purpose of this merger. I think the purpose of this merger is not to make 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 for us is equal 20. We're talking
20.
We're talking this morning, say, okay, what would be our new strategy? So we have 7,700 keys. I was telling our colleagues when we were on our booth that we need to add a 0 at the end, not from the beginning, from the right side. Okay. So I think this is where we are, and we are fully geared up to.
Samy, I'd like you to weigh in on this as well, just in terms of any announcement you can make today about sort of status, about growth, and I'm trying to put numbers on the bone, as it were.
First of all, I would like to thank Bench for this opportunity to give us to interconnect with our peers and colleagues, and thanks to the audience to be here with us. Elaf, as we know that it's 100% Saudi brand, owned by our mother company, Sidco Holding. Elaf, in our portfolio today, we are at 9 hotels across the country, across the kingdom. And we are planning for the next 3 years to open 20 hotels. We are the only only operator, Saudi operator, 100% Saudi, and our vision is to really exhibit the Saudi culture and Saudi hospitality in our properties. We are targeting the mid scale and the economic scale, which is, we think that there is a huge potential, especially for the domestic tourism, which is or represent for us a first segment in our properties. So the expansion of Elaf, since now 3 years, we rationalize our portfolio, and we focus on the middle scale and the upper scale for our expansion for the next 3 years, which we are targeting to reach minimum between 5,000 to 8,000 rooms.
Okay. The Saudi economy, in the meantime, I mean, we had some new data out from the government, and it shrank 0.4% in the second quarter. And it looks like the slump that has now lasted 4 quarters is beginning to come to an end as sort of the oil policy changes begin to take effect. But more importantly, Amir, you were telling me before we got on stage, like, Yousef, you know what? I would welcome a little bit of a slowdown. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because the last 2 to 3 years in Saudi Arabia, it's been hard on the supply chains, it's been hard on talent, it's been hard on executives. Could you run us through your thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The oil price has been faltering, right? And you've seen that in 2023. There was, if you look at overall GDP dropped by, just under 1%. But the non-oil GDP actually grew by almost 4%, right? Which was driven primarily by private sector consumption and also non-oil related investment. So, and then you look at, you turn that to tourism, to our industry, and actually, a 40% increase in net tourism spend, right? 65% increase in inbound tourism visitation. That reached almost 30 million inbound visitors. That's almost double what it was 4 or 5 years ago, right? Pre-pandemic. So I think the tourism growth story is definitely there. And let's not forget, right? This is a country of 35 million people, 2/3 of which are under the age of 35. Very upwardly mobile, dynamic, ambitious, educated, committed to delivering this transformation that the government has promised them. So the government has promised it to them. The entire country is committed to deliver that transformation, whether it's healthcare, home ownership, education, infrastructure changes needed to do this, technological change, whatever it is, everybody, whatever meeting you're in, when you're in a taxi, in a restaurant, everybody in that country is committed to deliver this vision. And the other thing I think that, that insulates Saudi from any, external shocks in the kind of economy outside of the country is the fact that, this is the home to the most holy sites in Islam as well. And, that is the Islamic religion is the fastest growing religion globally. There is not enough capacity to support the demand for the holy cities in Mecca and Medina. So that's business that is going to be there irrespective of what happens kind of outside the country. Okay. So you've got an enormously active population committed to delivering the transformation, and you've got the fact that you've got the holy cities as well that are going to pull in that visitation as well, regardless of what happens. The other thing is that you have to look at is unemployment's at record lows in Saudi Arabia. The female workforce is now heavily activated. I think it's well over 30%, which is what the Vision 2030 goal was. So they're well ahead of that, which is fantastic to see. There's definitely more work that can be done, and you see it happening. So you've got this entire population that's a lot more active in terms of private sector spending, really driving the domestic tourism market as well. And as you said earlier, I think the domestic market, 80% of visits is actually driven by the domestic market. And this is a country that's so diverse, whether it's in terms of the climate or the offering, cultural, religious, there's so much on offer that they want to experience.
I mean, I want to open this up to the floor just to get an understanding of how people see the Saudi economy. So if you think that the worst is behind us, either with local economic momentum or the effects potentially of anything in terms of shocks from abroad, if you think the worst is behind, if you could raise your hand, please. Okay, if you think the Saudi economy still has a little bit of pain ahead of it relative to the better years of prior segments, if you could raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to try this again. All right? This is not working. Okay, the number of hands are like 0 compared to all the people in this room. So, do you think the Saudi economy has its worst behind it? If you could raise your hand. There we go. Okay, now we're making progress. Okay. So there's a slight majority that thinks that the worst is behind us. I wonder what your view is on this and how it's sort of trickling through from what you can see in the balance sheets and what you're hearing from your people.
From our own people, I think Taiba is registering a very record growth, quarter by quarter, and like something which is unprecedented for all of us. Of course, this is the result of the merger and obviously our steady work in the marketplace. Now, we're lucky we have a diverse portfolio. We mentioned about the holy cities, Medina, Mecca, but also we operate, I think we are one of the largest owners in Riyadh, hotel owners. And of course, we are present in Jubail and in Tabuk. So this mixed bag carry on with the change of the season. So we leverage on Umrah season, we leverage on Hajj season, of course, for our hotels in Mecca and Medina. But again, Riyadh was really registering, I think, a great record, and Amir can confirm, and my friend from Elaf also. The government is working very hard on bringing all type of big conferences. So you hear about the FII. You have also other events. Seamless is ongoing as we speak. We had the e-gamers and all this is helping the occupancy of our hotels, and obviously it's contributing to I would say constant net growth for us. See, what is hard is keeping up with it. We are at the budget time, and we are trying to satisfy our shareholders and saying, okay, well, we need to do the same growth for 25 onward.
Samy, what's the situation for you? Because ultimately you have a little bit of a lean more in religious tourism, so that you could argue gives you some level of buffer. What can you tell us about consumer health today?
Well, before that, I would like just to highlight something, but regarding the tourism industry in the kingdom. I think in our world now of the tourism, the place to be is the Kingdom of Saudi. We can see what happened since like 5 years, 7 years, in all aspects, starting from entertainment, sport, culture, everything. It's really tackled by the Vision 2030. And this is something which is very important, because if we are really targeting the tourism, the tourists today and the clientele today, they need to see something new. They need to see a culture of the country. And the kingdom has a huge asset, diversified, as I mentioned all the time with my colleagues, that in 1 week in the kingdom, we can go to the desert, we can go to the beach, we can even skiing in the mountain. This kind of diversity of the kingdom, this is really what the new clientele of tourism are looking for. So as Elaf local brand, it's I think it was really a must to be in line with the Vision 2030. Saudi hospitality, it's rich with the heritage, with culture, and our expansion, it was between the holy city and the city hotels. That's why we launch a new brand under the umbrella of Hilaf, which is Judian, mainly for the city hotels between Riyadh and Jeddah, and in the holy city between Mecca and Medina. So the religious tourism, it's something which is, I think, it's given to the kingdom. almost we have 1.5 billion Muslim around the world. Their dream is to come to Mecca. So I think this is something huge potential for the holy city, which is we are really participating this as a key role in the holy city. And the city hotels, as I mentioned earlier, that it's for diversity, for everything's happening in the cities, and we are part of it.
Okay, just very briefly, maybe in one sentence, so does that mean that you would describe your current consumers as healthy, and then how does it compare to prior years? Because I still didn't get quite an answer to my question in terms of whether you see economic weakness or whether so far things are looking good. I think that's kind of what I'm looking for.
No, definitely. It's the potential. It's huge. And
potentially, yes, but potential is different from what you're seeing now, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand what you're seeing now because I can't, obviously I don't have your numbers.
Yeah.
I don't have your books. So what can you tell us about today?
Today, the growth is there,
Okay.
and this is something which is it can be witnessed with the numbers. So we can see the increase in pilgrims visiting the holy city. We can see it for tourism coming to the city hotels. And as my colleague mentioned earlier, the GDP for the non-oil sector, it's only in the tourism industry. And we saw this by closing last year with 4% GDP increase,
Yeah.
and next year for 3.5%.
Thank you for clarifying. Sultan, I want to get back to the direct quote from this S&P report. Because the way they describe what's happening in the government, they call it the recalibration exercise, and I love that. To prioritize projects based on economic return and reassess timelines. Now you are obviously in the front, sort of you get a front row seat, you sit with the leadership. And what I'd like to know, I'm sort of asking the question on behalf of our influential audience, what's the tone been? Has there been a shift? Are you going through this exercise there, or has that not come up there? Just to understand what's happening at the top level, as it were.
Okay. When you talk about the giga and the mega project in Saudi, which has been announced in the last few years, and I think we have done a great achievements in terms of progressing in the phases of each mega projects or giga projects. Let me comment on the ones that are happening in Aseer, starting from Suda, Ardara, and Aseer Investment Company. I think these three, I would say, portfolios are moving in the right direction, and it's very, very normal for countries to revisit their plans, to do rescoping, rephasing for the purpose of finding the right project to focus on. As I mentioned to you, Saudi is expecting to host the Asian Games in 2027. We are Expo 2030, Winter Olympic Games, and hopefully very soon the FIFA World Cup 2034. These four mega events with a dedicated, I would say, purpose, strict timeline, will make us, for sure, revisit our plans to make it fit these main priorities. But overall, I see the government is well committed to achieve its targets, and more, for example, I'll talk about Aseer. Now we are opening more chances to the private sector to play a role with the PIF. So now PIF is open more to collaborate with the private sector in terms of co-investing in the mega projects and the giga projects.
Yeah.
I want to interject here, if you don't mind.
Please go ahead.
It's really about, if you look at the calendar today of all the events happening, what happened in the past, but I think what someone should project in the calendar of the events coming for the next, I'll see, until 2034. I think all this one with the adjacent project coming up, say hosting the World Cup in 2034, it's already announcing the construction of 7 stadiums, right? So all these are bringing different type of business to our hotels between now and then, etc. And there are many, many events coming up. It's really on schedule for, let's say, The World Defense Forum is in 2027. The FFI is becoming a repeated one, which I mentioned earlier. I think all this from hospitality point of view, from a country growth, it's helping both sides, okay, the private, and I think government is doing enormous effort to continue driving it and give confidence to it.
The other thing I want to tap into are some of the challenges that you may be facing. It varies, of course, depending on organization and geography and so forth. You look at the sort of the list of potential headaches, and can include things like security, first and foremost, ongoing incidents along the Red Sea. A lot of us stayed up very late last night watching many missiles getting fired from Iran. Of course, a lot of missiles have flown from Israel around the region. The situation is tense, so there's a broader security consideration. Then you look at infrastructure, the bureaucracy, right? So, Amir, let me start with you. Out of sort of the list of things, what's something you like to speak to this morning?
I think if you want to talk about where the challenges are today and where there is potentially a massive opportunity, look, Saudi Arabia is a huge country, right? It's 2/3 the size of India. It's almost a quarter of the size of the US. A massive country, very large population, with a very diverse tourism offering, right, in terms of its natural tourism assets. And this is a population that wants to travel. I think there's a reasonably good road infrastructure. There's a reasonably good air infrastructure, and the airport capacity at airports, obviously in Riyadh with the King Salman Airport, in Abha as well, increasing their capacity to 10 million as well to activate those destinations more. But I think a really solid rail network to connect these different kind of tourism experiences would really benefit the country in terms of the number of visitors that would visit, and also increase their length of stay as well. So if you just take, for example, just the west coast of Saudi, you could connect an experience right from the top of Neom and all obviously the attractions that they're developing there, down to the Red Sea, where they've got hotels that are already kind of operating. We've got an LXR there coming up as well, under construction on Lahek Island, and then connected to Alula, which is the most archaeologically active site anywhere on the planet, down to Medina for a religious and cultural experience. And Medina is a market that's opening up massively as well now in terms of segmentation, a shift away from religious travel, and now also open up to the leisure market, to the meetings market as well, the events market, where we've got Hilton connected to a really transformative project at the Knowledge Economic City Hub. So that's a market that's really changing. And then connecting through the existing Haramain station, where we've got a DoubleTree in Medina, to Jeddah, to Mecca, obviously, and then even further south to Abha, where you've got the mountainous region, which can be and definitely has the potential to be an all year round travel destination.
I can see Sultan is nodding and he's smiling. So does that mean we're going to add to the list of projects? What do you think?
Already they have, the Hilton has two main hotels now at the Point project.
Yeah, what I mean, are you going to build the rail network? The extension?
See, right now we are working on our regional plan. And in our regional plan, we are introducing different modes of transportations. It's a work in progress, but now we are thinking how to connect the mountains with the sea, for example, via air taxi, via the cable cars, how we can introduce the monorails within the towns and introduce more walkability, because the best weather in Saudi is available in Aseer region. So when it comes to rails, I'm not an expert, but why not?
Okay. In terms of some of the other issues, climate shocks. We had over the summer, of course, the death of pilgrims, a tragic loss of life. Over 1,000 people died from the heat. My understanding is, based on what the ministry has communicated to the kingdom, that a lot of the people did not have the right permits. So I'm going to lean on this side of the panel, if either one wants to pick that up and just maybe explain either what can be done from an operator side or what can be encouraged on the regulatory side to prevent this from happening again.
Really abiding by the rules, this is, I think, the key for it. And what we can do, you cannot control certain people who they go off track and find their way and come in and intrude to the rest of the crowd. And these are the people who are unfortunately suffered from death or maybe high injuries, etc. I've been personally this year there, okay, and I walked, and it was really hot, but everything is very well organized, and I truly say was extremely and very well organized. Okay, you're passing, there is no every second meter where the people give you water or shelter or etc., just to make sure that your journey is done extremely smoothly. So the best way to prevent it is, again, continue control and emphasize on people that going off track is not a heroism issue. You should abide by the rules and take your license and subscribe the Nusuk and the others and go through the Hajj elements. So this is my best advice. Otherwise, you would see the results.
Yeah, I mean, there's the other components as well to keep in mind, that globally, the weather is getting more and more messed up, and we feel it. It doesn't matter if you're in Jeddah or in Dubai. My mother's side from Switzerland, we had some crazy rains there, that even overwhelmed Swiss infrastructure in the south of Switzerland. So that gives you a sense of how dramatic some of these changes are. Maybe that's something to factor in as well. Samy, talk to me about what you guys are doing on this front, because I'm sure it raised all kinds of alarm bells to prepare for the future. Because it's not just an issue of permits, because again, if the whole weather's shifting, right, then there's more that needs to be done.
Definitely, the sustainability development today, it's a must. And for only three main reasons. The first reason is that with the natural disaster happening, as you mentioned now, with earthquake, with the floods everywhere, we have to think about sensibility in our planet, and to protect the planet, and to try to prepare the well-being and the future planet for our future generation. I had one example, which is I attended yesterday the speech of His Excellency, the Minister of Economy and Tourism, which he highlights that they are making the hostels in Fujairah. This is something which is really linked to sensitivity, that it's a local product. I remember 10 years, 15 years ago, we were importing all this fish food from Europe and to make it in our restaurant in Dubai. So the first is that we have to make sure that our future generation will be prepared for this climate change. The second, today's clients are more demanding, and they are seeking for brands who are taking care and prioritizing the sensibility in their brand or in their market. So it means that we have to show in our brand or our hotels that we are thinking and we are making the sensibility as a priority in our operation. And the last reason, which is, I think, its most important one, is about our P&L in operation. We need to incorporate the sensibility in our operation, in practice operation. It starts, for example, for the utilities in our hotels. This is the major cost. It's between 7 to 10% from our P&L. So we need from now to think how to reduce the utilities and the energy in our hotels by creating and thinking out of the box for a new project. At Elaf, we are really, for the next 3 years, the sensitivity development, it's in our agenda. It will never be like before. Okay. We did the 3 years of expansion strategy of our hotels, and the next 3 years, it's about sensibility.
Okay. Amir, I can see you nodding in agreement. Do you want to add anything in particular?
No, I'd agree. I think if you look at travel trends, and we issued a report recently on travel trends, and I think ESG is definitely at the top of the list now as a kind of key criteria for making a decision to book a hotel, right? I think Hilton. This is not something new to us. It's since the days of our founder, Conrad Hilton, where he was of the belief that we should be good to the earth and good to each other, and that's been part of our legacy since then. We're leading the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. It's something we're very proud of, and we're continuing to increase our ESG targets as well. We passed them, and we've just increased the bar as well. I don't think you can ever do enough. I think when it comes to, unfortunately, like these extreme circumstances are no longer extreme; they're becoming more and more frequent. But I think if you've got, we've got 8,000 hotels around the world that we can take learnings from in terms of design and development, and having a really good team around us to be able to future-proof the design of those hotels to accommodate these unfortunate circumstances. But then that's from a design standpoint, but from an operations standpoint, it's monitoring your consumption, waste, water, energy. I mean, food, for example, in Saudi, we've recently piloted a project with Winnow, who developed this technology to identify food waste. And of those hotels that we were in that pilot project, we were able to reduce food waste by over 60%. I mean, there's a massive amount of food waste in the industry. Emma Banks, who leads our food and beverages, has really been pushing that agenda, both in Saudi and the region as well. So monitoring that is very important. At a property level, obviously, with 8,000 hotels, that's not an easy task. But we've got a platform called Lightstay, which is a brand standard. Every hotel has to have it, and we monitor that at every level. So we've got real-time information to be able to control that.
Hassan, I want you to just share as well sort of what's happening from a group level in terms of sustainability. What is the top priority here after A, the incidents, and sort of B, the broader trend?
Actually, what we have, we have early adopter of sustainability. One of our hotels is a Golden LEED certificate, is a Merit DQ. So we started this at the very early stage. This is an ongoing issue as far as we speak. I think sustainability is on the agenda of everyone. Starting by self-education to start with, and then eventually on our property. So our property is twofold. You have the new properties adopting completely new MEP trend and technologies which are less consuming energy consumption, and you have the old properties where the old transformation and renovation are changing to the new technology coming up. Many things which are definitely continue to educate our guests. Very likely our guests today are very well informed about sustainability, and actually it became a choice for them to go, are we adopting, I would say, the various programs which either our international operators or our own programs on sustainability. Is it a green engage or whatever the name of the program is in a particular property? People are selecting the hotel, or they are influenced to select the hotel because of respecting the sustainability. So I think it is on everybody's agenda, and we are adopting it, and it's an ongoing issue. It's not.
Sultan, I'm going to leave with closing thoughts with you around sort of the debates on a board level around how you implement sustainability without just, because there's a lot of PR work that goes into making sure you use all the keywords that tie into sustainability, and that it goes into the brochure and the website, and that you kind of covered, right? And then in the guest experience and initial letter, oh, we're committed, we're all not good, whatever it is. But on a serious note, what's the top goalpost of pursuit on sustainability at Aseer Development Authority?
I think the government plays a big role here by setting the...
So there is that constant pressure.
Yes, of course, from the government. And I think in Aseer region, last year we have announced the establishment of Imam Faisal bin Turki Royal Reserve. It's more than 1/3 of Aseer size. And we want to position Aseer as a sustainable tourism destination. We are working extensively with our partners from the private sector, promoting the sustainability, putting rules and regulations on the development, during the development phase, making sure that all the environmental impact assessments are done prior to each project to maintain our main asset, which is nature.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To our fantastic panelists, and of course, a big thank you to our patient audience. It's still a jam-packed agenda right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.